can't predict that a spouse is going to die. But you know what? Death has closure. Divorce does not. You have to do that self-healing, that self-discovery, that self-evaluation to figure out what it looks like for you on the other side. And that's when you really understand if you were living for you or someone else. Welcome back to another episode of the Purpose and Powerful Podcast. And we're continuing part two. Single by choice, repositioning for love. In our last show, Jurbil and I were very transparent about the divorce, discovery, challenge. And so obviously our lives have changed. I had one marriage, then I obviously got married again, and then that ended in divorce, but I'm repositioning for love for a third and final time. Right now, no clear-cut boos that would fall in that category, but 2024, who knows what life will bring. So we also have the lovely Latoya to join us back again, and we're going to mix it up a little bit and get some questions and give you guys some more content for navigating this special journey.
That's right. We're so happy to have Miss Latoya Massey on the call. You guys just gotta hear this out. But we were transparent. We're going to be just as transparent for the second part of the show.
So I know, or I have discovered or seen, and it's been often said, when a man gets divorced, he'll date again. No problem. Next week. Tomorrow,
he might already be dating. He might already be dating while he's married. I mean, why's out? Come on, that's
right.
That's just the man. So this,
once they're declared is over, even before paperwork or conversations had, they're already really phasing on out. So you mentioned in the last show that you stayed in marriage for 5 years, but there were signs before. There were signs right going into the marriage. In the first 6 months, you could have really colored it done, but really a year and a half, you kind of put it out there that you guys really stopped having more of, we're on this path together. And you said separate homes and everything. So what did that look like? Because what did that look like to say, I'm out of here and not have the official done?
You said severed home. You talking about the property?
The separate homes. You said you weren't even living in the same house.
All right, but we had multiple properties. During that time, all the market had crashed. So it's about 2008, 2009. And I mean, everything was just falling. And my health was going down. So it didn't look too good. Because I had those multiple properties, I have to admit, I kind of leveraged some of that and were able to find female friends very quickly. And I mean, I had multiple homes. So the homes were from Maryland to Georgia. To Maryland, North Carolina to Georgia. So it wasn't, even with or without the homes, a man can usually bounce back very quickly in situations like that. But that was the outside. Inside, I felt like crap. I felt hurt. So I noticed that she wasn't able to move on as quickly. But on the outside, it looked good, but it really wasn't. So just to let you know, guys do feel it, whether they admit it or not. They just use a lot of things quickly, instant gratification, to make it appear like they're better, but they're broken. We're broken. We're hurt. And I also felt like I had embarrassed my family, the people who had come to the wedding that I had set them up. I felt that I disappointed my daughter because she was really young, but she knew this wasn't right, and this wasn't the type of situation she deserved. But I knew I had to do this. I had to choose to be me and live my life. And if I wouldn't have gotten a divorce, I wouldn't be here today.
Amen. Well, I'm so glad that you made the choice so you could be here.
On the podcast, I wouldn't be able to talk about it.
But it's not even that, like even without it being your health, that mental health state, the part that makes it very tricky when you're dealing with divorce versus somebody died, it's like the person died, but they're still walking around. The only death is the relationship, which that in itself, like for me, for example, it was really hard on that second one because there was no plan B. And I'm looking at my age, I'm looking at different things. I'm like, this is the man I want to have kids with. So I'm like, what does that look like? All that. I
So
mean,
let me ask you, E, would you, and this just be real, we transparent on
we
the
are
pod,
here to be real.
would you have been okay of having a baby with him and still getting a divorce? Would you have been okay with he having the baby and he still left you? Because he left, but still abandoned. But you
Right.
just would have had one or two kids, the two kids that he has now, those could have been you. How would you have taken that? Or do you feel that you were able to escape? Because of course, we talk about the clock is ticking for the woman and all of that. Despite of all of that, how do you feel? Do you feel that are you glad that you didn't have the children?
Okay. Excellent question. So, we talked about, well, when this goes back even further than that. So when I was 12, I had two things that I said for myself. I did not want to have kids or be married before age 30. Only half of that was the case.
Mhm.
And so, with that being the case, for me, it was about establishing the career. So him and I are both on that same wavelength. We're both locked into that, like, let's get this career going and rolling and moving. And so I was cemented in my career by 30. And so now we're having the conversations and he's not really ready. And I'm not pushing or rushing because I'm in the beginning stages of my career, really. In the accounting world, it's 3 letters in 3 years. CPA in 3 years in, you can work anywhere if you're licensed in Florida or you're licensed in California. And so I didn't even know about the IRS enroll agent path at that time. But with that came the nuances of learning to live together, right? So he was more like the career thing worked, but he wanted in certain pockets. So if we're gonna have these kids, I'm gonna be in this career, then our timelines would look like X. Like not all these hours that you're working and all this dedication that you have, but in his mind, he had 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's it. That was not the career that I chose. And I wasn't going to, I'm sorry, I was not going to revise my career. I had started out as an engineering student before I even became an accounting student. And I decided to make that switch all by myself. And I switched that knowing that that is the correct path for me. So now we're in it and we've decided and we're still deciding. And so, we had a couple years where we're like, okay, I think this is the year for us. And so he went overseas and started working, came home on leave one time and was like, oh, you know what, we should make a baby. I'm like, we don't have a plan for this. So for me, it's like always having a plan. And here's the God's heaven truth. How I feel about kids and why I don't have any today is this is my prayer and it's been my prayer since I can remember. I do not want to have children with someone who is not going to be there and under these vows and be there through the end. Now, it's not within my control, but if it's known and foreseeable that this relationship may not make it, I'm not having kids with this person because now it's not just my mental health. It's not just my life that I'm upending. I'm upending and uprooting these children. And I see every day the effects of what divorce looks like for other people, and I don't want that for my kids. Now, same way, if you can't predict that a spouse is going to die, but you know what? Death has closure. Divorce does not. You have to do that self-healing, that self-discovery, that self-evaluation to figure out what it looks like for you on the other side. And that's when you really understand if you were living for you or someone else. And if you're not happy, it doesn't really matter. Someone else, regardless of a relationship or marriage or whatever, cannot come do that for you. You have to have the inner happiness, the inner peace, and then a relationship just comes to complement those things. But
Right.
if you put all your eggs in the relationship basket, you're really going to run into some problems. But no, so for me, it's still the same. Now I am 46. I still believe in having children. I'm going to have them. Look at all these celebrities and all these people get older than me having kids. That is not off the table. The only thing I'm waiting for is the man that God is going to bless me with. That man's going to want children, and most probably he doesn't already have them. So we don't even have any more nuances or wrinkles other than adjusting to each other and adjusting and blending into each other's lives because that's challenging enough without throwing blended families in there. and that's done every day, I don't believe that's my path. I'll just say that.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for the transparency. I have a direct question. I mean, because we have a lot of listeners and viewers. So people want to know, you said you're 46 and you're single, highly accomplished, educated in the streets, and of course, in academia. However, what would be the range? Because I don't know if this is on your list or you ever shared this with me. What would be the range of how young you would date or marry to how old? Do you have a range?
Yes, so my last relationship, he was 10 years younger than me, and that came with nuances of emotions. And so that was hopeful for me because I was like, great, that person's gonna really want kids, and he was really great with kids, and he doesn't have any, he's very accomplished, he's a business owner. And so being it as though it may, with me being more solidified in my career and my outlook, that is challenging for two business owners. I'm still like, I need an executive, somebody in management, somebody that owns their own business, because they understand what this life is like, right? I don't have to argue about that. We don't have to go back and forth on those things. But that was hopeful for me. And we were together for 4 years, but we did not go to distance. I mean, we talked marriage. We knew we wanted to get married, and I'm glad that we didn't, because that marriage would have came with some sacrifices that I didn't see coming too, you know. So 10 years younger is where I've been. Now that I've had that particular experience, I think I would only go maybe 2 years younger. Like my ex-husband was 2 years younger than me. My first husband was 4 years older than me. I would go 2 to 10. So 9, really, 55. So I would go down to 30, no, not 30, 40, 40. I would go 6. I would go 40 to 55. That's my range.
So 6, so do the math for me again, if that.
So I would go down to 40. Like the man cannot be younger than 40 years old.
So go down 6.
Yeah, I would go down 6, and I would go up to 55. So 9 years, I would go down 6 up to 9 above.
That sounds wild. 69, 69. You're gonna go down 6, up 9. All right.
Yes. Because hey, you know what? He's fertile too. Those are some powerful swimming years for him still.
All right.
So, and he knows who he is. Most men, they know what they know their identity. They're in their career. There are other earmarkers that I would say, not only know who he is, he knows what he wants. So Babe, for example, my mature friend.
Your what? Your what?
Yeah, my mature friend. He knows what he wants for the next 10.
And how old is he again?
He is 53.
So he makes the
cut. For single, that. No children, very successful, very accomplished.
Energetic man?
Energetic, yes.
Right, you got to put that out. You don't want a man who's
Yeah, no. I teased him last week about him going to bed early. I said, okay, now I just want to let you know, I'm not an early riser, and I'm a night owl. So,
you said you are. So you get up.
I'm not an early riser, and I'm a night owl. So I can get up early. It's not my preference, right?
I thought you were, it seemed like.
I'm up because that's the nature of my business, right? But I have to, if I wanted to stay where I am, but I don't prefer it. So if I'm like on vacation and I don't have anything planned and there's nothing for me to do, 8:30 would be more ideal for me. But going to bed at 9:30, I strive to be in bed at 10 o'clock. 99% of the time it does not happen. I'm good if I'm in bed by midnight, So, but yeah, but he's very energetic for that. And I teased him about that, and he laughed, but he's into sleep. But I get it. The older I've gotten, the more I'm into my sleep too. So when I go to sleep, I want to be asleep. So I said, okay, if we were together, just so you know, if I go to bed before you, don't come mess with me because I'm about my sleep. I said, if you go to bed before me, you would have to tell me if we were doing recreation or not, or if you want me to join you, because I'm not going to wake you up unless you tell me. So he laughed. He thought it was funny.
I want to just ask me something, because I know that you want that perspective, and I'll share whenever anyone wants to know. I'm not holding back, and that's why I'm the real Jurbil.
That's right. So you mentioned that you had girlfriends and different things like that. A lot of times, and this is very controversial.
All right.
Me personally, I wouldn't date a man that's about to get divorced or a man that stays separated. A lot of times, a lot of women find themselves getting caught up because they're not that honest. So were you honest with the women and let them know you were legally still married?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was. I couldn't hide it. It was just too much drama going on with my ex-wife. I mean, always something. So the calls would come in. I mean, I had to get my daughter every other weekend. I mean, then that might change up. So somebody I might have said I was going to date that weekend, told them I couldn't. Then all of a sudden I'm available. I mean, so anybody who got close to me within a week, they knew it wasn't anything that I wanted to hide or felt like I should hide. I wanted people to know, because if people are going to be around me, then I want them to stay. I was hoping they would stay for a little bit. And it was a young lady who I dated for a while, and that's all she wanted. She rolled with me, but she was pushing a divorce. And we ended up dealing with each other for at least 3 to 4 years. And it was a wild situation. But I mean, but at the same time, it was a little fun. It was something that I guess I needed, because I think I was feeling real constricted in the marriage that I was in. And I had just jumped into the marriage for a few reasons. And then I also felt like I'm 30 years old, or I'm about to be 30. I'm about to quote unquote blow up. I want to make sure I'm with somebody that who's kind of seeing me as I go. So that was this whole story I put in my head. And I even did that same thing when I was in college. I was also engaged, and I got engaged in another college when I went to my Maryland, University of Maryland College Park. So I was engaged 3 times before I got married.
So in that transition, from divorce is final, ink is dry, you kind of have a plan with your daughter, what that looks like, little parenting plan, whatever, whatnot. When did you make the decision that you were actually ready to be remarried again?
Well, it's 2000, so that happened in 2009. Then I got engaged in 2017. No, 2018. Got married in 2018. But that's around that time. That's when I decided. 2000.
So 9 years.
Yeah. Yes.
So in that time, like, okay, so most men are not like, I'm going to go get remarried again, why get married? Because I don't want to go through this again emotionally.
I had to give it another shot. I mean, because I knew if I didn't, I was just going to be shooting around. And that's what, so I could have died. I mean, it was, as they say, it's nothing really out there. It really felt like that. It felt like the walls are closing in. I like freedom, but at the same time, there was a part of me who liked to have someone to call and say, where are you? And they're not, and they really have that right to say that, as opposed to somebody who dating 3 other guys, they disappear. When they resurface, they finding out where I am, and we playing this Tom and Jerry game. So I thought that it was better to have that consistency, to know during Christmas who I'm gonna be with, or the holidays, and my birthday, and it's not a whole bunch of people where you don't know what's gonna happen on your birthday. I mean, just Valentine's Day, all of that stuff. So I wanted some consistency at this stage of my life. And my daughter, I mean, you gotta understand, my daughter had seen her mother already get married again, and she saw me, and she's getting older, seeing different women around, kind of kissing up to her. And I mean, she didn't take to a lot of them that well. And she was right about a lot of them. Wow. So the record, Dora, you were right about a lot of them. I acted like you didn't know what you're talking about, but you were right. As a kid, she just knew.
Oh, good. Awesome. What was the longest relationship you had between the divorce and getting remarried?
It was about 2 of them. They lasted 3 to 4 years because it says 9. I'm hoping they didn't overlap because it seemed like once I jumped out of one, I was in another one. But most of those were like 3 to 4 years. And so the first one that happened, right after I got divorced, that was about 3 years. And then she was demanding me to get a divorce. And I don't think we would have got married. And she wanted a child. So it was a situation where she wanted us to have a child, even if we weren't going to be together anymore. She said, we'll be together forever with this child. I mean, it sounded exciting for a minute, but once I got more entangled in that situation, I knew it was time to get out. So I ended up meeting someone when I was working at a cell phone company, and she came in and we connected. She was she was opposite of what I was used to with this crazy back and forth situation. And she was going through her divorce, and I was going through my divorce. She had 3 kids, and they were older. They didn't like me, but so we kind of rebelled and we hung out, and it was just fun. So that was nice for a little while. But to be honest with you, I didn't think that we were going to be together, but it was a place that we could be close. And when she got tired of that was going on for almost 3 to 4 years, she ended up talking to somebody else, and I was devastated. I mean, you talking about ego blues. I thought I would be the one to let that go, but she did. And I'm gonna tell you what, so that's why I can tell you it was my ego, because 2 months prior, I had told her we needed a break, and I said I don't think we're gonna make it, and she was devastated. So 2 months later, she did something about it, and then I'm thinking, oh, and I'm acting like a victim. I'm calling my boys and acting like she's no good, and I'm talking bad about her and saying, and I shouldn't stayed that long. Oh my God, it was bad. It was so bad. Her kids really turned on me because I'm looking for us. I'm trying to go get to her through her kids. Of course, they never liked me anyway, but it was bad. The little dog was chasing me around. I mean, it was bad. Oh man, I'm telling you, the ego can really mess you up. You think you in love, you making up all these stories. It was bad. I never forget that. That to feel like you're with somebody that you don't even want to be with, and when they decide that it's over, then you're acting like you're different. So you just got to be real with yourself. And my boy told me, because it helped me get over it. He said, Jurbil, you've been crying about this woman for a while. He said, if she were to come back, would you really want to be with her? And once he said that, I said no, because I knew all the things I didn't like and why. I said no, man, no. He said exactly. So what are we talking? And I said all right, and I felt better. But it was because I would drive my boys crazy. I was calling people up. I was listening to people, saying you think she's gonna come back, all this stupid. I mean, it was dumb. Oh my gosh, this is healing for me to just talk about how dumb this is. But I mean, I had to go through those processes. But again, I was at a certain point where, because of the divorce and because of issues and things that I hadn't resolved, that's what happens. You get caught up in that stuff. It's things that I wouldn't ever dream that I would have dealt with or been involved with. And the mistake I made was thinking, because this was somebody that I probably wouldn't really get with or stay, and then you spend that time, you get used to the person. So you get used to everything. The things you like about them, the things you don't, you're just used to it.
So you liked being in it because of what it served you, and you're willing to sacrifice or look beyond the things you didn't like for the comfort of saying, I'm with this person. Is that what
But we never really claimed each other. But one thing I liked about her, I mean, I think I missed it, is she gave me a lot of freedom. I had keys, but she didn't have keys. She never popped up. She never did any of that stuff. She never really questioned. She was older than me too. So she was about 6 years older. So I thought I had the edge too. I said, I'm a younger guy, she want me. When she let me go, or she let the situation go, it was of an older guy.
But so you think it's more like her looking back and reflecting, because you said you don't think we're going to make it, more like you were immature in some way, and this is why she went for an older guy after?
I don't know if it was an older guy. I think that, well, there's a few things. I mean, I I was coming out of divorce, so I didn't really have certain things. She definitely did need some financial help. So I do remember me getting a laptop, and she was upset about that because she looked at it as maybe I could have put that towards her rent or something. So it was a couple of things that weren't in the best interest for either one of us. But I needed that laptop. I had started doctor program. It was something that I wanted essentially. So I wasn't being selfish to me. And I'm thinking if we're going to still be together or close anyways, you're going to benefit from it. But no, that wasn't how she saw it.
So for her, what she was looking for, I would think probably from a female's perspective, we've been together for this long period of time and we're looking for this ring that's never going to come. And when she's feeling like, oh, I don't know if y'all did this, you exchange I love yous in this process.
Definitely said that. She was real. She didn't speak much. That was just her way, but she would show certain things. So she definitely wasn't one to say a lot. But of course, I can speak enough for both. But she could write poems and she could draw. And so she had some real creative gifts. But I definitely didn't think that I could also handle the responsibility of her 3 children along with my own. And especially children that don't like me.
So did you guys talk about that the kids, did you express that you had a concern that her children did not like you? And what was her response to that?
It was touch and go. Sometimes I felt that she just, especially the boys, puppied them up a little bit. And of course, you can't tell anybody how to raise their children or whatever. But I mean, they would taunt me and stuff. And, she'd take their side. And it was kind of a couple of times, kind of, you can get out. These my kids and stuff like that. I remember those words. I mean, that started and stirred up some bitterness, and that definitely shut me down a little bit, made me move away. But at the same time, I wasn't ready to just leave. But I do remember those, and I do remember them all as a united force, kind of like, yeah, get out. And they had a little dog that was situation like, Ralph, get out. Like everybody, even the dog got involved. So it wasn't fun. I'm not, and they look like the dog was gonna come after me. You remember coming to America when they told the dude with the curly hair, whatever, what's his name, Ice or whatever his name was? He was Ice and rapping. LaSalle, Eric LaSalle. That little dog looked like he was coming after me. So, who wants to? I've been through some things. Our podcast, The Real Jurbil, Erica Lester, we got some stuff for you.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, aren't you glad? I mean, it would take all of the pain and all of the sadness, and it is about the rejection. It is about feeling shame, like you let people down, let yourself down. I mean, first one, I was a little hurt, but second one, I was completely devastated. But I would say, I'm so glad that the Lord removed them. I'm serious. And I'm not, we had some great times. I learned a lot about myself. I don't take that for granted, but real talk, I could have just been their girlfriend and been done, honestly.
Right.
And been better for it. I didn't even have to be married to them to get the lessons that I learned. But that's just God's way of protection too. It's like, okay, you think you want this? Let me let you go and have it. Okay. Now that you found out, what do you want to do about it? And I think too, spiritually, I wrestle with it, and I know a lot of people do, is because of what the religious stance may be concerning divorce. But if the life is so toxic, listen, it is not selfish to say, my life deserves to be better. Now, you can actually make those decisions before you even embark on the marriage now. You need to be doing that due diligence beforehand. But when the marriage gets underway, like you identified in 6 months, that this is not right, it would be far better to cut and run then, especially if you've tried counseling and different things, or you have had counseling prior to, and I definitely believe in that. Marriage counseling before, relationship counseling, whatever you call it. When I was going to entertain possibly being engaged for a third time, I was like, let's do this relationship counseling, the pre-engagement counseling. So we did that, and we did not make it out of that. because I respected the information that came out of those sessions. And the one thing that I decided, or one thing that came to light in that session is this man knew it was very important to me to have children before our relationship ever began. And in one of those sessions, in the last official session, not that last wrap-up phone call where we're telling the therapist we're not going to move forward in a relationship or whatever have you, was he said, and I had 5 children. He never really saw himself having additional children in that session. And one thing I made very clear to him was, please don't embarrass me by revealing anything in these sessions that you and I have not talked about beforehand at any point. Oh, wow. I said, because now we're dealing with new information that could derail our relationship because I'm going to be looking at you very differently. But that one was a major one. And I knew right then our relationship couldn't move forward because the foundational thing was children were essential for me. That's a requirement. So he said, I think, well, we can have a conversation about it. I said, a conversation is not going to fix this. Later, no, I'm not about it. Like, I'm not going to do this. I know that. Like, I can love your children as my own, but they're not my own. And that's very important to me. I said, not adoption, not helping to raise other people, children. This is important. And this is a deal breaker for me. And even though I loved him and everything was good, for the most part of our relationship, you have to stick to your values. You have to stick to your why.
That's right.
But listen, this has been an amazing, amazing session. And we thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have conversations like this and so much more. So stay tuned. We will be back next week with another live session. Subscribe, ask us questions, submit feedback. We're here for all of that, and we'll be happy to help you navigate these journeys as well.
See you soon. Thanks so much. And thank you, Latoya.